Worms are small, silent, and almost invisible creatures to most people, but their role in the ecosystem is enormous. If you think you know everything about them, get ready to be surprised, because the world of worms is more fascinating than it seems. Let's start with a curious fact. There are over 6,000 known species of worms in the world. Some of them live in rich and moist soils, while others thrive in dry areas and even tropical forests. No matter where they are, they have one thing in common. They are Earth's natural engineers. Did you know that worms are responsible for turning soil into a fertile environment? They literally eat dirt and transform it into a nutrient-rich compost. Speaking of eating, here's an interesting fact. A single worm can process up to 30 times its weight in soil per day. This means they are constantly recycling organic matter, breaking down leaves and plant debris, and making the soil healthier for plants to grow. It's as if they are small factories of natural fertilizers. But how do they do this? Well, worms have an extremely efficient digestive system. They ingest soil particles along with organic matter, which passes through a specialized digestive tract. During this process, they release essential nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which plants love. These nutrients are released through humus, a dark, rich material they leave behind. If you've ever dug into soft soil and found tiny granules, it was probably the work of worms. Now, let's talk about the impact of worms on agriculture. Farmers around the world rely on these creatures to naturally improve soil quality. They aerate the soil as they dig tunnels, allowing water and air to penetrate deeper. This directly benefits plant roots. Imagine an underground irrigation system created by millions of worms working together. Isn't that amazing? And if you think that's all, wait until you hear how worms help fight climate change. Yes, these little creatures play a crucial role in reducing greenhouse gases. By promoting the growth of healthy plants, they help sequester carbon in the biomass of plants and in the soil. The healthier the soil, the more carbon it can store. But not everything is perfect for worms. They face serious threats, such as soil pollution and the excessive use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers. These toxic products can kill worms or hinder their ability to break down organic matter. Without them, the soil becomes less productive, more compact, and less capable of supporting plant life. This is why practices like organic farming and composting are so important. Speaking of composting, did you know that worms can be raised at home to help recycle organic waste? This practice is called vermicomposting, and it's a sustainable way to turn food scraps, such as fruit and vegetable peels, into natural fertilizer. It's simple. Just set up an appropriate container, add red worms, which are the best for this process, and feed them organic scraps. In a few weeks, you'll have high-quality fertilizer for your plants. Now, a moment to talk about the life cycle of worms. Even though they don't have eyes, they are extremely sensitive to light. This is because their thin skin can detect changes in the environment, helping them protect themselves from predators. When it comes to reproduction, worms are hermaphrodites, meaning each one has both male and female reproductive organs. However, they still need another worm to reproduce. After mating, they lay cocoons containing eggs, which hatch into small worms. These young creatures begin working in the soil almost immediately. How about exploring the impact of worms in urban environments? Often, we forget that even in cities, they play a vital role. In gardens, parks, and even plant pots, worms help keep the soil healthy. They can even reduce the need for watering, as their tunnels allow water to be better absorbed. But what happens in places where there are no worms? Interestingly, there are regions in the world where these animals are almost non-existent, and this directly affects local biodiversity. Soils without worms tend to be less fertile and struggle to support vegetation. In some cases, efforts have been made to reintroduce worms into degraded ecosystems, with impressive results. You might be wondering, how do worms survive in extreme climates? Well, some species have incredible adaptation strategies. In dry conditions, they can enter a dormant state called estivation, in which they reduce their metabolic activity until the environment becomes more favorable. In very cold environments, some species burrow deep into the soil to protect themselves from the frost. Finally, we cannot forget that worms also have their place in popular culture. In many traditions around the world, they are seen as symbols of fertility and renewal. In others, they are used in medicinal recipes, especially in traditional Asian medicine. This shows how even the smallest living beings can have a profound impact on human history and culture. Let's not forget that worms are also an important food source for many animals. They are at the base of the food chain in various ecosystems, serving as food for birds, reptiles, amphibians, and even some mammals. Without worms, many of these animals would struggle to find sustenance, potentially causing severe imbalances in several habitats. Another fascinating aspect of worms is their role in science. They are often used in research related to soil health and even in studies on how to improve agriculture in extreme environments, such as in space. Yes, you heard that right. Worms have been taken for experiments in zero gravity. Scientists are studying how they can help create fertile soil on other planets, like Mars, in the future. Moreover, worms possess an incredible regenerative capacity. Some species can regenerate body parts if they are cut, although this depends on the extent of the damage. This intriguing phenomenon has caught the attention of biologists, who seek to better understand how this process works. It might even serve as a basis for research in regenerative medicine in the future. And as strange as it may seem, worms also play a cultural role. In some parts of the world, they are considered delicacies. In countries like China, worms are used as ingredients in exotic dishes, valued for their high protein content. At the same time, the excessive trade of worms for fishing bait and food has raised environmental concerns. In some places, native species are being replaced by invasive species, which can damage local ecosystems. This reminds us of the importance of preserving worm diversity and their natural habitats. Now, one last curiosity to end on a high note. Worms are silent but powerful allies in preserving the planet. Even without voices, they teach us a valuable lesson. It's possible to transform the world, even being small, as long as the work is constant and impacts everything around you. So, the next time you see a worm, don't see it as just a simple creature. See it as a symbol of renewal, resilience, and connection to the cycle of life. With this information, it's clear that worms are much more than they appear to be. They are indispensable for environmental balance, agriculture, and even the future of humanity. Maybe, after this video, you'll never look at a worm the same way again.